The wind blew strong on top of the metal tower. The sky was dark with thick clouds, and the cold air bit against her skin. But the alien girl didn't move. She stood still, right on the edge, looking down at the hard ground far below. One step. Just one step, and it would all be over. Her name was Saria, but no one here cared about that. No one had asked. No one had even looked at her properly since she arrived on this human colony. She was thin, dirty, and covered in bruises. Her clothes were torn, and her eyes were dull. She looked like something forgotten, something people wanted to throw away. She had walked through the human streets like a ghost. They saw her, but they didn't stop. Some looked at her with fear, others with disgust. A few laughed. A few said, "That thing should be in a cage." No one helped. No one asked if she had eaten or where she was going. She had tried asking for work, for shelter, even for food. The humans said, "You're not one of us. Go back to your kind." But her kind had already left her. Her people didn't want her either. She was small, weak, and born with a defect in one leg. They said she was useless. A broken female, they had called her. No one will want you, not even as a slave. And now here she was, on top of the old cargo tower, looking down at the metal ground. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, but from cold and from hunger. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. But it didn't matter anymore. Nothing did. The world didn't need her. No. One would miss her. Her feet moved an inch closer to the edge. She closed her eyes. Then she heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, human boots. She didn't open her eyes. Maybe it was security. Maybe they would yell at her to get down. Or maybe they wouldn't care. She didn't care either. But then, a calm voice spoke. It wasn't angry. It wasn't harsh. It was soft, warm. "If you jump, I won't stop you. But can I tell you something first?" Her eyes opened. That was not what she expected. She turned her head slowly. A human man stood a few steps away. He was tall, with short brown hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple jacket with a military patch on the sleeve. His face didn't show fear. It didn't show anger. It showed something else. She stared at him, silent. He sat down on a piece of old metal, a few feet from her. He didn't come closer. "I almost jumped once," he said quietly, looking up at the sky. Different place, different reason, but same feeling. That heavy, empty feeling, like nothing matters anymore. She didn't reply. Her hands gripped the edge tighter. Why was he telling her this? "I lost my whole unit in the war," he continued. "Friends, brothers. I thought maybe it would be easier to just stop everything." She blinked. The wind pushed her hair across her face. "But someone told me something back then. Something I didn't understand until much later." She found herself asking, in a whisper, "What did they say?" He looked at her. His voice was steady. "They said you don't have to disappear to stop the pain. Sometimes you just need one reason to stay." She felt her chest tighten. "Do you have that reason?" he asked. Saria looked away. Her voice cracked. "No one wants me. I'm nothing." The man nodded slowly, understanding. "That's what I thought too. But you're not nothing. You're still breathing. You're still standing. That means something." She shook her head. "Why do you care? I'm not human." He stood up slowly, careful not to scare her. "Maybe because I'm tired of watching people fall. When maybe all they needed was someone to say, 'I see you.'" Tears filled her eyes. No one had said that before. Not in her whole life. He took one small step closer, his hand open. "You don't have to come with me. I won't force you. But I can give you food. A warm place. Just let me help." Her foot moved back. From the edge, she turned to face him fully for the first time. "What's your name?" she asked. He smiled gently. "Jack." She stepped away from the edge. Just one step, but this time, it saved her life. Asterisk, the first thing Saria noticed was the sound, not shouting, not orders, not insults. It was silence. Safe silence. She sat in a small chair inside the human's room. For the first time in a long time, the floor wasn't made of cold stone or dirt. It was smooth, warm, clean. Her body shook not from cold now, but from something else she didn't understand. She wasn't used to kindness. Not like this. Jack, the human who had spoken to her on the tower, moved quietly around the room. He didn't stare at her. He didn't ask questions. He didn't chain her up or yell. He simply placed a steaming bowl of food on the table in front of her. "Eat," he said gently. "It's okay." Saria stared at the food. It smelled strange human. Spices, but it was real. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the spoon. The first bite was hot. Too hot, but she didn't stop. She ate like someone afraid the food would vanish at any second. Jack sat on the other side of the room, watching silently. Not judging, just watching. After a while, Saria slowed down. Her stomach hurt, not from the food, but from being empty. For too long, she wiped her mouth with her sleeve. Her eyes kept glancing at Jack. "Why?" she finally asked. He looked up. "Why what? Why did you stop me?" Jack leaned forward slightly. "Because I saw myself in you." She frowned. "I'm not human." He gave a small smile. "Pain doesn't care what species you are." That sentence hit her like a quiet thunder. She looked down at her arms. Old wounds. Faded bruises, marks of slavery, beatings, hunger. Her skin might be different from Jack's, but her pain. "Maybe it wasn't so different after all. You could have walked away," she whispered. "I could have," Jack said, "but I didn't." Silence again. Then she asked, "Are you a soldier?" "I was," he said. "Now I fix broken things." She looked around. The room had tools, wires, even old robot parts on the shelves. Everything was half repaired, half alive. Saria touched her chest gently. "Can you fix broken people too?" Jack looked straight into her eyes. "Not with machines," he said. "But sometimes, listening helps." Her lips trembled. She didn't cry, not yet, but her heart did something strange. It softened. "Back on my planet," she began, her voice dry. "They said I was born wrong, weak, not good for work, not good for anything." Jack didn't interrupt. "They said females like me bring shame. I was sold to a trader when I was 12. He didn't even ask my name. Just called me it." Jack clenched his jaw but stayed calm. "That's not what you are." She shook her head slowly. "Then what am I?" He answered without hesitation. "You're someone still alive, despite everything. That makes you stronger than you know." Saria stared at him. No one had ever said anything like that to her. "You said someone saved you before?" she asked. Jack nodded. "Long ago. I was broken too, lost everyone in a blast. I sat alone, ready to disappear. What changed?" He smiled sadly. "An old medic found me. He didn't say much. Just handed me a drink and said, 'You're not dead yet. So what are you going to do about it?'" Saria looked down at her hands. They were shaking again, but not from fear. "I don't want to die," she whispered. Jack stood up, walked to a small cabinet, and pulled out a folded blanket. "Then start by resting," he said, laying it on a flat sleeping mat near the wall. "Tomorrow we figure out what you want to live for." Saria stared at the soft blanket. No chains, no cages. Just warmth. She hesitated, then slowly walked to the mat. She lay down, holding the blanket close. Jack turned off the main light, leaving a dim one near the door. As he stepped out, Saria spoke again. "Jack?" He stopped. "Thank you. For seeing me." He nodded once and closed the door gently. Inside the quiet room, for the first time in her life, Saria cried, not from pain, but from hope. Asterisk, she didn't sleep much. The blanket was soft, the floor warm, and the room silent, but Saria lay there wide-eyed, staring at the ceiling. No ropes held her. No command barked at her. No boots stomped. Near her ear, only the faint hum of machines and the steady beep of a power core nearby. This room was peaceful. Too peaceful. It made her nervous. Her body didn't know how to rest. Her mind didn't know how to feel safe. Her heart didn't know how to believe. When the door opened softly the next morning, she didn't move. She expected to be kicked, dragged, ordered, but Jack only peeked in with a gentle voice. "You hungry?" She sat up slowly. "A little," he smiled. "That's a start." The table in Jack's room had 2 chairs now. Last night, she had eaten on the floor. This morning, he pulled the second chair out just for her. Little things, tiny acts of respect. Saria noticed all of them. As she ate, she kept stealing glances at him. He wasn't like other humans. He didn't ask about her species. He didn't treat her like some strange creature. He just treated her like ... someone. "Do you live alone?" she asked quietly. Jack nodded, drinking from a metal cup. "Yeah, got used to it after the war. Why didn't you give me to the guards?" He shrugged. "Because you didn't need a prison. You needed a chance." That answer confused her. People like her didn't get chances, they got collars. "Or cages, where I come from," she whispered. "They give up on people like me." Jack leaned forward slightly. Maybe it's time to come from somewhere else. Later that day, he took her outside. Not into the streets, she wasn't ready for that. Instead, they walked behind the colony's main station, near an old scrapyard. Broken machines, rusted bots, dead drones. "Why bring me here?" she asked. Jack grinned. "Because this is where I keep all the things others called useless." He lifted a dented drone from the junk pile. Its wing was cracked, circuits burned. But Jack turned it in his hands like it was something special. "They said this one would never fly again," he said. "Wanna see something cool?" He pressed a button. The little drone word lifted a few feet and wobbled in the air. Saria's eyes widened. "You fixed it?" "I gave it time," Jack said. "Patience, a few spare parts, and hope." She stared at the drone. Then at him, and something inside her chest warmed. That night, she didn't ask permission. She quietly stood at Jack's doorway, holding the blanket he had given her. He was working on something at his desk. He looked up and smiled softly. "Can't sleep?" She nodded. "I don't want to be alone tonight," she admitted, voice small. "But I don't want to bother you." Jack pointed to a corner near his workbench. "There's a clean mat there. Floors. Yours." She walked in silently, curled up, and for the first time in years, she slept without fear. She screamed in her sleep. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp. A sound like someone falling forever. Jack woke instantly. He didn't rush to her. He didn't shake her awake. Instead, he sat on the edge of his bed and waited. Saria sat up with a gasp. Her skin was damp, her eyes wild, her chest rising and falling like she had run for miles. "It was just a dream," Jack said gently. She blinked, looked around, slowly remembered where she was. No chains, no cage, no master. She was still here, still safe, still alive. "I hate sleeping," she whispered. Jack didn't ask why. He already knew. Later that morning, she sat near his workbench, watching him fix a broken tablet. He had offered her a tool, just to hold. Something small. She gripped it tight, like a weapon. Jack noticed. He said nothing. She finally spoke, staring at the metal in her hand. "Do you want to see something ugly?" she asked. Jack looked up from his work. "Only if you want to show it." Her fingers shook. She rolled up the sleeve on her right arm. Long white lines crossed her gray skin. Some were deep, some were faded. All were real. "They did this," she said softly, "when I made mistakes, when I was too slow." Jack didn't flinch. He nodded slowly, letting her finish. They said punishment makes females stronger. But it only made me numb. He stood and walked to her, kneeling down in front of her chair. Then he rolled up his own sleeve, a burn mark, a stitched scar on the wrist, a faded name tattooed, crossed out. "This one?" he said, pointing. "I got it saving someone. Lost. 2 men that day. And this one." He tapped the stitched scar. Was from trying to stop a machine that went crazy. Didn't work. Saria looked at his arm. Then back at hers. "You're not afraid of me?" she asked. Jack shook his head. "I've seen monsters before. You're not one." That evening, she cleaned his tools without being asked. It wasn't to earn her keep. It was because her hands needed something to do. Something good. Jack watched, but didn't stop her. He saw the small spark in her eyes. It wasn't much, but it was the first real light he had seen in her since she arrived. She turned to him. Her voice quiet. "My people said I was born wrong. Not strong enough to be a mother. Not pretty enough to sell for high price. They said I was just a burden." Jack sat across from her. "Do you believe them?" he asked. She hesitated. "Not anymore." Jack smiled. "Good." Then came the knock on the door. 3 heavy bangs. Jack stood quickly. He opened it, and outside stood 2 armored officers and 1 alien diplomat in a robe. The alien's eyes narrowed when he saw Saria inside. "There you are," he hissed. "Return the slave now." Saria froze. Her hands dropped the tool. Jack stepped in front of her without thinking. "She's not a slave anymore," he said calmly. The officer raised a tablet. "You're harboring stolen property. This is a legal matter." Jack's jaw clenched. "She's not property." The alien diplomat sneered. "Then prepare for punishment." Saria didn't breathe. Not really. She was holding the air in her chest, like letting it out would make her visible, make her real to the monsters at the door. Jack stood between her and the alien official like a wall. He didn't move, didn't blink. Only his hand slowly slid toward the weapon hanging by his belt. "I said she's not a slave," Jack repeated, his voice calm, but sharp like steel. The alien diplomat stepped forward, showing the scroll-like hologram with swirling alien text. "She was purchased by Lord Envek of the 4th House. She fled. That makes her a runaway. That makes her ours." "She's not a thing to own," Jack snapped. The 2 human officers exchanged looks. They weren't sure what to do. The law was complicated between species and ugly when it involved property. Saria stepped out from behind Jack. She was shaking, but not afraid, not anymore. "She's dead," she said, her voice flat. The alien turned toward her. "Excuse me, the one you're looking for. She jumped off a tower days ago. No one saved her. No one cared. She's gone." The diplomat's nostrils flared. "You dare lie to a council official?" Jack held out his hand. "She's under my care. If you have a problem, take it up with command." The alien's smile was like ice. "Oh, I will." That night, the air was thick with quiet, not peace tension. Jack locked his door and scanned it 3 times. Then he sat down across from her. "That won't stop them," Saria said, watching him. "No," Jack agreed. "But it might slow them down." Saria sat on the floor, back against the wall. "I don't want you to get in trouble for me," she whispered. Jack shook his head. "You're not trouble." She stared at him, then asked, "Why do you care so much?" "I'm just one alien. Girl, the universe is full of pain. Why stop for mine?" Jack leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Because once, someone stopped for me. One person. That was enough to change everything." The next morning, the door didn't knock. It exploded. A flash. A roar. Smoke. Jack rolled over, grabbed Saria, and pulled her behind the desk. Shouts filled the hallway. Orders, boots, weapons. They weren't waiting anymore. They were here to take her. By force. "Stay down." Jack barked, tossing her his backup blaster. If anyone but me comes close, don't hesitate. Saria clutched the weapon with both hands. Her fingers trembled, but her eyes were sharp. Jack opened fire through the smoke, not to kill but to slow. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to buy seconds. Seconds for her. Seconds for hope. The alien guards pushed forward. One of them spotted Saria and raised a shock rod. She didn't scream. She pulled the trigger. The blast knocked the attacker back into the wall. She stared at the weapon in her hands. Jack grabbed her hand. No time. We run now. They crashed through the back door into the scrapyard. Sparks flew. Smoke trailed behind them. Jack's voice was firm. This way. Saria ran without looking back. But in her mind, she saw it clearly. They hadn't come to rescue her. They had come to erase her. And she wasn't ready to disappear anymore. Not after him. Not after this. Fire danced behind them. The sky turned red from the alarm lights as smoke rose into the cold morning air. Sirens wailed across the colony. Loudspeakers screamed. Unauthorized escape in progress. Secure all exits. Jack's breath came hard and fast. His back burned from a cut, but he didn't stop. His only focus was the girl beside him, Saria, running for her life. She had never run this hard before. Not when escaping her slavers. Not when starving in the alleys. But now she ran like she wanted to live. Left. Jack shouted. She followed. They slid through a narrow alley between two old supply towers. Rusted pipes, crates, and shadows swallowed them. Behind them, footsteps. Shouts in alien tongue. They were being hunted. Jack pulled open a service door, and they slipped into an old tunnel, one used long ago for cargo bots. It was dark, damp, and cold. They paused, breathing heavy. Saria leaned against the wall, gasping. They're not going to stop. I know, Jack said, checking the blaster's charge. But neither are we. She looked up at him, her eyes wide. You could still leave me. You could go back. Say I forced you. He stared at her. Then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver chain. My brother died wearing this, he said quietly. I wore it ever since. Today, I leave it with you. He placed it gently into her hand. Because I want you to live. Saria stared at it. Her lip trembled. You think I'm worth dying for? No, he said with a grin. I think you're worth living for. They moved through the tunnels in silence. Only the hum of power lines and the drip of leaking pipes followed them. Eventually, they reached a sealed door. Jack entered a code. Nothing. Dead. Manual override, he muttered, pulling open a panel. He worked fast, but sweat dripped down his forehead. The sound of boots echoed again. They were close. Too close. Saria turned and pointed the blaster toward the sound. Her hands were steady now. She wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't going back. You ever fixed that drone we played with? She asked suddenly. Jack chuckled while rewiring the lock. Yeah, why? I think I finally understand what it felt like. He paused. What? She looked at him. Something broken. Learning how to fly again. The door clicked open. Go. He shouted. They ran out into a hidden hangar, a forgotten bay buried under the colony. Inside, a single transport pod sat waiting. Half covered in dust, half full of hope. Jack jumped into the pilot seat. It's ugly, but it'll fly. Saria dropped into the second seat, heart pounding. The engine screamed to life. At the tunnel entrance, alien guards arrived too late. The pod lifted into the air just as stun rounds hit the wall behind them. As they blasted into the sky, Saria looked down at the shrinking colony, the place where she almost ended everything, and now, the place where she found a reason to begin. Inside the pod, she turned to Jack. I don't know where we're going. Neither do I, he said with a smile. But we're going there together. Asterisk. The stars look different now. Saria stood at the edge of a quiet cliff on a new planet. Green hills behind her, a calm lake below. The wind here was soft, not sharp like the one on the tower where her story almost ended. But she wasn't standing on the edge to fall this time. She was here to watch the sunrise. It had been 3 weeks since the escape. Jack's transport had taken them far beyond trade lanes, beyond patrol zones, until they found this place. A small colony where no one asked questions. A place where people came to disappear or begin again. Saria chose both. Jack now worked as a mechanic for local farmers, fixing everything from water drones to walking tractors. He didn't make much, but he smiled more than he used to. And Saria, she was learning. She cleaned. She cooked sometimes. But most of all, she trained. Jack taught her how to use tools, how to defend herself, how to think like someone who belonged. You don't need to be useful to have worth, he told her one night by the fire. But I want to be, she said. He nodded. Then let's build that version of you. One step at a time. Every night, Saria wrote in a little notebook Jack gave her. It had empty pages, just like her new life. And she filled it slowly. Not with pain, but with things she wanted to remember. The sound of safe silence. The taste of warm food. The silver chain in her hand. The name someone finally asked her for. One evening, Jack returned with a surprise. A cum tablet patched together from scraps. I fixed this up, he said. You can send one message to anyone, anywhere. Saria stared at the screen. Why would I want that? In case you want closure, or revenge, or peace. She thought long and hard. Then typed only 4 words. I lived without you. And sent it to the name of the alien lord who once called her nothing. Now standing on that cliff, the sun finally broke through the clouds. Golden light touched her skin. She wrapped Jack's old jacket around her shoulders. It was too big. Worn out, but warm. Just like the man who gave it to her. She heard footsteps behind her. You always wake this early? Jack asked. Not always, she said. But today feels special. He stood beside her, hands in his pockets. Thinking about the past? She shook her head with a small smile. No, thinking about the future. A few moments passed in silence. Then Saria said, back then, I didn't jump because of your words, but now I live because of your actions. Jack looked at her. You saved yourself, he said. I just reminded you that you could. She smiled real and bright. And for the first time in her life, she believed it.